Hey friends, and welcome back to our channel. So today we actually have some very interesting news to share with you. We're moving to
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Woo. I feel like, so we're gonna give like the whole backstory on it, but basically everybody in our lives, maybe not so much on YouTube yet, but everybody in our lives have kind of been
Waiting for this to
they've
happen?
been waiting for us to move, but they have not been expecting where we've told them we're moving.
Yeah.
So give you guys a little bit of backstory, how we chose Raleigh, and yeah, what's been going on, why we decided to move in the first place.
I mean, I guess the first thing is that we've been talking about moving somewhere basically since we've been dating. Like,
Yeah.
as soon, I don't know. I was actually
I've
trying
been
to think
talking about
this.
it like my whole life. I've always wanted to move out of the Midwest, at least for a year.
Yeah. And I lived in Raleigh for a year and I really liked it, but also being to Denver with my dad, seeing people living in California, I just knew, just based on like being in those places for short periods of time or even like seeing pictures of California, that it was much more my vibe. So I knew eventually that I was going to want to move out of the Midwest too. So I think we both kind of knew that, or definitely knew that individually, but then when we came together, it just naturally became part of the conversation then.
Yeah, so I think like the confusing part is though, just so you guys know, if you don't know already, we live in Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. I'm from Wisconsin, so I moved out of state, but not too far. And like he was just saying, we've always been very focused on West Coast or moving west. So California, Colorado, different parts of California, things like
Even
that.
looking at like Idaho, Utah, like all
Yeah.
this sorts of stuff out there. Because I mean, it's just gorgeous.
Beautiful. So the biggest thing for us with moving is that we wanted someplace that was a little bit more nature focused, because we do get it in our current place, but it's just, we can't go anywhere easily from here. We can get up to Wisconsin, we can get to some of the Midwestern states, but it's not really any different than what you get here in Illinois. And we really wanted to be able to start traveling more, and I think with the pandemic and all the stuff going on, it just really ignited that even more. We're stuck somewhere, we don't even know the next time we'll be able to fly, and there's really nowhere to go.
Well, even too, traveling is part of it, but it's also just our immediate environment. Like when we were in Denver, both of us, it was just constantly we were like, oh, they're just so pretty, looking at the mountains on the horizon, or in California it's like
the ocean.
You have the ocean, you have the mountains, you have palm trees and stuff like that. So a lot of it has to do with our immediate environment too, and also stuff that we can easily get to. So kind of back to what Jesse was saying, things that we can do an easy day trip to, drive an hour or hour and a half. That's, being in California is we can get to the ocean within an hour or an hour and a half, depending on where we live. Colorado is we can get into the mountains and be hiking and be in this beautiful, beautiful area within an hour or two. So those things have been a huge part of what we've loved thinking about other places.
But I'm sure people that are listening are like, cool, that's great. You guys sound like you love California and Colorado. Why did you choose the East Coast, the South, North Carolina, specifically Raleigh? So I actually have never been to Raleigh. We are going at the end of June to get a feel for it, make sure that I don't absolutely hate the place before we move our life across country. But a few things kind of popped up in the last month, like I said, with the pandemic, but also our landlord decided that he was going to sell this house that we live in, which was a big reason that we were staying here. So that kind of threw everything up in the air, where we were like, okay, now seems like the best time to move, because the only thing that was really holding us here, besides family obviously, but they want the best for us, was this house. So when that was no longer an option for us, we really started looking even more deeply into moving to California or Colorado. And then we kind of stopped, pivoted, and now Raleigh. But why did that happen?
So Jessie was saying she hasn't lived there. I have. I lived there for about 10 months before I quit my corporate job. I was working in the consulting world, and I was on a project out there. My job was here in Chicago, but they basically stationed me out there because it was easier. So I lived there for close to a year and just really loved it. I really enjoyed being in a place that was outside of the Midwest, a little bit more nature feel, just like trees and rolling hills kind of everywhere, and I really loved that vibe. It just felt good. And then the other kind of major factor then was back to what we were saying about getting to places. Raleigh is a few hours from the coast, so we've got the ocean there. It's also, if you go west in the opposite direction, you're a few hours out of Asheville, which is in the mountains. So we've got that. So while we don't have either of those things immediately, like right in our immediate area, the ability to get to each of those things within a few hour drive gives us the ability to be able to do like long weekends and things like that.
We're also closer to the other side of the country. So there's all these places that we honestly had never really looked into. We both were very drawn to the West Coast due to like wellness and palm trees and all that kind of stuff. But Ben's grandparents live in Florida. They're like an 8-hour drive. And we actually, our first road trip together was to Charleston and Savannah. So Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia. And it was like the best vacation that we loved vacationing in Southern California and in Colorado, but I feel like Charleston and Savannah has like a very deep rooted like love in both of us.
Yeah,
because that's kind of where we fell in love, or that we decided that like
and those places are just incredibly romantic. Like there's just that
really
energy
cool places
to it.
Yeah, so just like the opportunity to see different things, be different places, even within North Carolina, within South Carolina, and then just the opportunity even with checking out other parts of the East Coast that we don't even know about. I think another big thing that really drew me to Raleigh, or both of us, is that while Raleigh is far away, it's less far than even Colorado, but especially California. So very easy, quick, cheap flight to Chicago, to Wisconsin, so my family can come and visit us. If we really wanted to get home and we needed to bring Cora, which would be always, because I will never leave my dog alone, or like with other people, we can easily like road trip home, versus like California would take us like a week just to get home basically. So that was also, it was like, it's definitely going to be an adventure, but there was just a little bit of comfort there knowing that people could get to us easier. My mom, for example, won't fly. So, I mean, she's only going to get to California if she like takes a train or something. Whereas to Raleigh, it's a little bit easier to get to it that way. Another big thing for us, I think a really big part of it at least, was the cost of living. So if you guys are familiar or have watched any of my budgeting vlogs or anything like that, living in Chicago is very expensive, and you pay to be in or around the city, which is funny because neither of us want to be in or around the city. So we're paying for a convenience that we don't even care about. And even where we live, we're like 40 miles, 35 miles outside of the city, and it's still quite expensive to live here. It's cheaper than it is in the city, but it's still
we got more for our money, things like that. But still, it's like it's still for what it is. It's pricey.
Yeah.
It's pricey.
Yeah, so in Raleigh, first of all, in California and Colorado, because we keep talking about these, we basically, the good thing is we're used to high cost of living. So we easily could move to California or Colorado, and the cost of living, quite honestly, would be about the same. A lot of people don't believe me when I say that, but it really is. Like, we were looking at houses in California that are the same size and basically the same price as our current place.
Yeah.
So the thing is, though, we decided that while we could do that, it doesn't really fit around our goals. So our goals in the next few years are to really like hammer down, pay off our debt, get Ben's business like totally booming, get mine off the ground so that we can both be kind of working on our own businesses. And with that, living in a high cost of living place just to live there doesn't make sense. So, and if we moved to California or Colorado and we were around all these cool things, we would be so house poor that we wouldn't be able to go anywhere. So with Raleigh, I mean, we'll be saving at least $500 a month on our rent to live in a similar and or nicer house. So that was like a huge thing for us. And also just like cost of living in general, things are just elevated here. So that was really interesting because it kind of gave us everything that we needed with our goals to be able to move somewhere, to have an adventure, to be near the mountains and the ocean, be near other things that we want to experience while being able to live a lifestyle that we like, but saves us a little bit of money that we can put toward debt and or put toward having experiences and traveling for the weekend and things like that.
So we were thinking a lot about how we wanted it to feel, and we've talked a lot about environment, places we could get to, nature, all that kind of stuff. What we realized was that, kind of like Jesse said around the money stuff, was that, okay, we were super excited because we could get a place in California for a similar price as to what we were paying here. But what we realized over time was that, and it's not like this was some quick, easy process. We've been talking about it for months now, and like how to make a decision, where it'll be right. But we realized that it felt really like we just got kind of stressed about talking about the prices. And at least for me, what I realized was when we brought Raleigh back into this conversation, I just noticed a lightness in my body. Like I felt like I could breathe a little bit more. I just felt like literally I could take a deep breath. Whereas like when we were talking about California, I started to get like a little bit tense. And so I really paid attention to that shift because I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And then we also, we were sitting over there on the couch, and we had talked about this for a little bit, and I was like, okay, wait a second. Like, what are we actually, like, what is the feeling we're after? What are we trying to get to? What are we really, like, we're talking about nature, being able to take trips, talking about money, like that's all good, but what's like the actual feeling that we're trying to chase? Like, what are we looking for? Why have we wanted to move for so long? Mm-hmm. And so much of it just came down to feeling free, like freedom and a little bit of adventure. And so that's when we were like, okay, well, you know what? We can get that in Raleigh, and it's a short-term thing. And
yeah.
Or it could be a long-term thing. And that's the beauty of it is
we have nothing holding us or making us go to any area. Like Benjamin's building his business, so that is like his sole focus right now, which is entirely remote. And my job is now entirely remote. So we kind of can do and go wherever we want and see if it works. And if we don't like it in a year, we can move somewhere else. We can move back. We can stay and move to a different neighborhood. Like there's tons of options.
Yeah, and that's like super important. I mean, at least to us, some people want to plan things out more. Like I get that.
Well, yeah, and I'm struggling. It's definitely difficult. It's not easy.
No. Mm-hmm. But there is so many. I know I've mentioned this in another video that we talked about. Oh, when we were talking about moving out here from the city. People so often get the idea that if you make a decision, it has to be the right decision. You have to do the right thing. And it's like, it's not the end of the world. Mm-hmm. Even if something happens, we could hate it. Who knows? Like, one of the things we're worried about is like the heat and the humidity with Jessie, because it's something that she just really doesn't like. And we know it's going to happen. If you have any tips,
please let me know.
Like we know it's going to happen. We know that's going to be something. The point is like, I think just having going into it with a lack of expectation and just understanding that we aren't setting the course of our next 5 to 10 years of our life based on this. It's literally what feels right in this moment, and we're not like doing it on a whim. Like I said, we've talked a lot about it,
and we're going there, in the end of June. So that's kind of the news in a nutshell. We definitely will be filming this process. I'll film when we go to Raleigh in June and kind of check it out. Maybe we'll film some like packing vlogs, or we're gonna very much try to get rid of as much stuff as we can. And then just like other decisions that we make along the way. We're not moving. It is currently May 24th today. So as we're filming this, you guys will see it in a couple of days, but we are not going to Raleigh until the end of June, and we're not moving to Raleigh until August 1st. So we do still have 2 months, but within that 2 months, we have a lot to do. We have, go through our whole house, pack, all that stuff. They're selling our house, so there's tons of stuff. Seeing people before we leave. And this is all happening during, stay-at-home orders. So things are a little crazy. Moving in a pandemic is definitely going to be interesting. So we will take you guys along on that. And then obviously like moving vlogs, and we're road tripping out there both times because we're just not comfortable flying right now. But so we'll make sure to share all that. But if you guys have anything that you would like to see in this process, let us know in the comments. There's definitely so much that we could share, and we're trying to get better at sharing all the things. So yeah, lots of stuff happening in the next few months. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. Anything else?
No, we're good.
Yeah, we're excited. I'm nervous, but I think the nerves have turned to like more excited nerves. At first, it was a little bit more like fear, but now I think we're both excited. So yeah, we're moving across the country just in a different direction than we were anticipating. So we got a 1,000-mile move coming up in the next 2 months, and then we'll see what happens. But thanks so much for watching, guys. See you later.